time we need to look at our tactics. It is now, because we live in a world today that is full of so many terrible things. If you go through social media and the news, 98% of what is posted is about evils, bad things going on in our society, recklessness, criminality, vices, and so many evils. And we have cultivated, or we have settled for the attitude of always reporting these things without looking at the fundamentals of why these things are. And because we live in a world where evil governs the narrative, we tend to have a problem of actually tracking or making another generation better. If you look at how life has evolved, you'll discover that every generation that comes gets worse. Things are done more terribly as wisdom increases, knowledge increases, and all of that. And wisdom increasing does not actually mean that things can always be good. The more problems we solve in the world, the more we can have, you know, before us to solve. So it is very important that we go back to the basis. And what is the basis? The family is the basis. The family, yes, the family. We can define family to mean several things, but I want to look at the first definition of family, which is the nuclear, you know, living or existence of people. We have people whose parents are dead. We have people who don't have siblings. We have people who don't have children. We have people who just have one child, or who has one parent living. So many things have happened, might be the case of anybody, but the issue here is the family is about the close people around us, the people who have, in this particular definition, the close people who have influence over our lives, whether we influence them or they influence us. They are categorized here as being part of the family. I want to welcome you to this broadcast. I want to also appreciate you for being part of this place. As you come in, just like it and share on all your social media platforms, and then also subscribe if you have not subscribed. I'm going to be looking at the family here and how we need urgent change in our system. I was listening to, or I read a particular story this morning where a woman in Ghana is carrying out a disciplinary action against her daughter, who wore this show belly cloth, her teenage daughter. And she was actually, I think the younger ones were capturing the discipline, and they posted it on social media. And what was being done was that the woman, in these days where we spare the rod and spoil the child, this woman was putting the effort to see that she teaches her daughter how to be sanely dressed, to dress sane, to be sane. Today we see on the streets lots of young girls. I mean, they are crazy. Even in church, when they come to church, they dress insane. I don't know what really women are thinking, or girls are thinking, when they dress provocatively. I don't know what is on the mind. I don't know if it is desperation for money, or desperate to prove what is inside of them and all of that. But of course, it is actually what is inside of them. Some of them have this information around them or inside of them because they had parents who didn't really, or who were not there for them, to make them understand. Sorry for the noise. There's a particular advert going on with somebody with their vehicle moving around. I don't know why they have to come at this time and broadcast anyways. But anyways, and what I'm trying to say is this: what goes through a mind of a teenage girl or a girl who dresses to provoke public attention? I know that you cannot give what you don't have, because fundamentally, if we look at a girl who goes that way, there must be a point where she became indoctrinated to understand that what she needs to do is to dress provocatively. Sometimes we look at, strongly it connects with the parents. Some of them might not have had parents, but they might have had people who were around them, who influenced them as guardians, either the parents or the guardians. I call them the parents. So now the influence, what is passed on to the child, the girl child or the boy child, is very critical, you know, for very the message came in and is position for review. I don't know why it is position for review. So I have to see it. You know, somebody is asking if I am black. So the purpose of this broadcast is for us to look at the family. We are talking about politics. We're talking about decadence in politics. We're talking about the wrongs in religion. We're talking about the entertainment and what it is doing to us. We are all talking about these things, but we're not looking at the reasons why these things are. We're not looking at the reasons why these things are. The truth about it is that, um, sorry, I don't know why I'm having, God loves you and I love you. Daniel says, God loves you and I love you. I love you too, and God loves you too. Thank you so much for sending me the message of love. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Daniel. Sometimes your spirit feels elevated when you find people who can just give you a word in the morning like this, and you feel okay about it. Now, the concern I am having here, we've been talking about politics, how what is happening, ADC, welfare restoration, water, this, that, this, but we are not looking at where the problem is coming from. We are always looking at the situation and our reaction to the situation. Remember, there is a particular broadcast I made 2 days ago. I was talking about being active and being reactive, actions and reactions. Yes, sorry, I think my network went bad, and that is why. So I'm sorry about that. I just had to change the network. So now, yeah, so the concern here is now that we are always talking about politics, how we are having criminals and other people who come into politics to manipulate, take the votes every year in, year out. We're talking about the same thing, like that, and it has become a very serious problem to us now. But we are not looking at the basic problem. Who are those who practice politics? People. Who are those who are in religion? People. Who are those carrying out different entertainment programs on TikTok, on movies, on Instagram, on Facebook, and all that social media platforms? People. Now, where are those people from? Where did they come from? They come from families and households. Were they born at a particular time? Yes, they were born. They grew up at a particular time under a particular influence. Who are those carrying out terrorism and kidnappings? People. Were they born at a particular time naked as every other person? Yes, they were born. Were they influenced and grew up under people? Yes, they did. And so now we are neglecting the fundamental part of all of this stuff. Having lots of. Someone is asking me what I think of Paul Kagame. That's the same thing we're saying here. When you talk about Paul Kagame, we are still talking about the same problems we have generally. You are talking about politics, and that's why we're looking at the solution here, the solutions here, because the solution has to do with the kinds of families we have today that produce the kinds of people that we find in politics, we find in entertainment industry, which of course governs social and practice and social behavior of people, and then also the kinds of people that are found in religion. Today you can see the corruption in religion. In fact, there was a particular video I was showing to somebody yesterday. I think I was showing it to Ego yesterday, and you see somebody was comparing what is happening in China and what is happening in Africa. That doesn't mean that China is perfect anyways. Even if China is advanced in doing what they are doing, you discover something about Chinese. They have this very, very critical concern about their families. They preserve family ideals. They preserve, this attitude and value for themselves. If you watch an average Chinese woman dress, she dresses moderately. She dresses covers. She's well dressed. Watch an average African. All they do is pick up the garbage from the West. Today you see a young man in Africa is kissing his fellow man, and we say it is freedom of what do we call it, existence, or freedom of life, or freedom of whatever freedom they call that. You know, I don't, even your morals and your senses will tell you that this is a problem. um Hakan says it's true, Chinese value had a lot of stock in the average family workers. Yes, that's the truth, because look at how they quickly advanced from nothingness to somethingness. They committed to trainings, family values, and building their society in the culture of their future, in their children, influencing their young ones, influencing their girls. Look at their men when they are growing up, they are thinking of what they are going to do for their country. They are thinking of building their potentials. Look at their ladies, they dress moderately. They are thinking of, they are not, their mindset is not how they come to show themselves on social media. And so their mind is projected to what they can do, because from childhood they are trained to commit to what they have as potentials inside of them, not what they can show that men would come to have pleasure. And that is why we are having so many ladies in Africa. Nothing. Have you ever seen anything concrete they do? It's either they're in the movie industry or they're in the entertainment industry, and that's all. Or next, or maybe they come to TikTok to post some things, and that's all. No one, it's very few. No one is digging into creative thinking, putting up something on social media that will advance the lives of other people. Haken says, whereas in individualistic society favors the dollars. Of course, when you look at this now, you are talking about money in this regard, which means that the reason why all these things are being done is one, poverty. Why we have in Africa today where people are not doing anything good for themselves is because poverty. And so people are desperate, they are hungry, and their parents too push them, some of them, their parents push them into wrong lives. Now let's look at the other nations of the world where poverty, they don't even have that kind of poverty they have in Africa. For instance, in the United States. If we say poverty is the problem, then what about the United States? Why is the United States having, why is all the corruption coming from all those places? Why are they importing all those stuff into Africa and other parts of the world? Why are they trying to influence Chinese, society to look like them? Why are they trying to influence other nations to think like them? Why do they want other nations to admit or accept homosexuality or a queer lifestyle, whatever they call it, transgender, and all those nonsense that we see all over the place? Why is the West forcing everyone to be in that realm with them, to continue to be stupid? Why are they trying to force people to get corrupt and destroy their system, destroy their cultures, destroy their values? Why? Why are they forcing people, those who are not admitting or accepting the Western lifestyle? Why are they calling them totalitarians or communists or whatever they call them? Why are they making us feel that it is until you accept, you allow people to do whatever they want to do? A boy can say, I want to become a girl, and then you change, you go to the hospital, and they would carry that conscious, operation on you to transform you. Why is it that they want us to accept abortion as a normal thing? You kill, even if it's not, whatever it is, just kill it. As long as you don't want the child, you have a right to your body. But they are not thinking of the right of the child to live and survive, because the child has become it. As soon as blood is formed, it has started. It has life. And as long as there are parts that have started coming on that child has its right. So they're not looking at that. A woman would go commit whatever she wants to commit, do whatever she wants to do, and tell you she has a right to her body, and then kills a child and says she has a right to her body. I'm not talking about those who were raped or whatever it is. And when someone is raped and something happens, or so, at least from the moment these things happen, there should be a system, in that family that makes things transparent, so that the child will be able to tell you on time, and then you can now deal with that matter. But where a woman goes into different sexual activity and sleeping here and there, or having sex with a man consciously and through mutual agreement, and then suddenly You are now saying that because you have a right to your body, you want to kill the child. And then they were pressing it, pushing it on other countries of the world. Look at them pushing homosexuality on the countries of the world. Don't you know that when people get into immorality, it pushes them to the point of desperation, because they keep getting desperate about their situation until they will get to the time when they will be thinking that they will get frustrated. Because when you become too free, you can do anything you like, you can become frustrated, especially when what you are doing is not right. It will lead you emotionally to a point where you discover that your life is beginning to get shattered, because you are too free. You are too free to do anything. You can accept to be a woman, you can accept to be a man, you can accept to kill your child, and all these things will be witch hunting you until you get to the point where you become frustrated, and then all you think of is suicide. Don't you see the level of suicide on the Western nations? It's more than other parts of the world. It's more than what you have in China. China today think of value. The people think of value. They think of their life. They think of their future. They think of their nation. They think of growing their families. And these kinds of things, values from the family level, is what is making that country. In fact, today I see it as the best all over the nations of the world. It's like my brother says here, where as an individualistic society favors the dollar. When it is all about the dollar, when it's all about the money, everybody wants to get the money. Everybody, society is favoring dollar. But of course, you know that there are societies like China, which of course, what they have even achieved is more than whatever you can ever imagine. Because I remember the Chinese society, as in the early 60s, they were very poor. But today, they have transformed. They have done marvelously. They are a great nation, number one in the world. That's what I call them. Number one in the world, that's what I call them. Whatever statistics they have out there, it's not my concern. My concern is because, sorry, why I call them number one is how can people transform from that level very quickly in a space of few years? American society have been there for a long time, and they thrived by, you know, slavery. But these ones came up by doing business, mutual business with other people. Of course, some of you will say that they take advantage sometimes. Of course, when you are doing business, sometimes you think of your own profit, but they have not enslaved anybody. They have not taken advantage of people through slavery in any form nationally, but they have been able to build their economy and seek out what they can do best and learn from other people's ideas and build on it, build their societies. But it began with their family values. Now let's look at Africa. Today we have terrorism, we have so many things happening, going wrong. You have forgotten that those guys who are blowing themselves up as suicide bombers came from a system that influenced them that way. So when you are talking about a suicide bomber has come to a particular place and killed people, are you thinking or thinking of what we need to do to stop the beginning, the fundamental reason why these things happen? Because the fundamental reason why these things happen is important and is um, the most important aspect of dealing with the circumstance rather than when waiting for it to become a monster. Today we see armed robbers on the streets or criminals who want to jail them. But did we ask ourselves questions? What influenced them from childhood? What what process, who trained them? How did they go? What was their lifestyle? Do we investigate their parents to know what happened along the line? When we begin to go into this culturally as a people, when we begin to probe into the lives of criminals, to their families and their parents, we could even arrest criminality before they pass them on to their children. Because when you discover that a teenager is behaving in a particular way that is showing that this teenager is going to be dangerous to the society, when you trace it to the parents and be able to look at the parents' life, put them through, um, you know, you know, try to make investigation on them, and along the line you'll discover that the parents are the fault, and so you could be able to arrest these things from onset rather than waiting for these parents to continue to influence this child or the school or the friends or whoever is influencing this child, rather than allowing them to influence this child until they get to the point where they commit a crime, and then you now have to jail them. If you jail them, you have not jailed the source. The source is still intact, the source is still there. you must get rid of the source or deal with the source to help to secure the next generation. Because when we begin to wait for crime to happen before we begin to now come and capture the person who has committed the crime and jail them, and when we don't look at the source, where is this person coming from? Who has influenced him? Where did he grow up? Who are his parents or her parents? How did they train this child? How did they grow up? Under what influence? Which schools did they attend? Under what influence were they able to get to this point where they begin to commit this crime? When we begin to look at the foundation of these things, we would sort most of our problems very quickly as a people. I tell you, we will solve our problems very quickly. We are always looking at what people have done. We are reactive as a people, as a society. We are always looking at the situation. Somebody has robbed. Somebody has come into politics and has robbed the nation. Somebody has become a president. Like somebody's telling me now about Paul Kagame. Paul Kagame, by what we see, he has stayed there for so long in power, yet nothing to show for it. The country is dying. Nothing is happening. The situation is so bad and terrible. But the truth about it is that he was trained by somebody. He grew up under somebody. He attended a particular school. He attended a system. When people begin to come into public places, we should trace them to their source. Now, their source can help us discover the problem of so many people's lives. But we know that sometimes people can have good parents, but along the line they fall apart because their parents were not able to help them diversify their approach to their behavior and attitude. They were not able to help them see that peer pressure also matters. They were not able to impact the children, even if they are trying to put good, attitude and characters in these children. They were not able to impact the children on understanding their values and what they represent in the world, their focus, their expectation, what they are in the world for. When you give people reason why they live, that is what becomes their focus throughout their lives. The reason why you have people come up as terrorists to blow themselves up and kill themselves just for a particular cause or mission is because they have been trained to believe that that is what they are born to do, to fight for a particular religious ideology that would destroy them, kill them, and cause danger in our societies and create lots of problems for other people. We must go back to the foundations. We also must, to deal with these things, as much as we are taking care of our own system and understanding all of that, we should be able to also to have a particular eye or an eye into other people's children and how they operate and their families and how they operate. We're not saying you should go and poke nose, but you should be observant in your community, in your surroundings, and in your environment, how these things, how parents are operating with their children. And if you are friends, you'll be able to influence that parent to understand their values. Sometimes when I talk to some parents, sometimes I'll see that when we're talking, the kind of abuses that is coming out of their mouth on their children, I'll try to make them understand that. And then I'll give them some kind of talk that will open up their minds to seeing the error in what they are doing. And before you know it, they'll start saying that my child will not be this in the name of Jesus, or this kind of thing cannot be my child. I say it's not about prophecy. We have been religiously battered in our mindset, and so we think that things are about prophesying. It's not about prophesying. It's about what you are giving to your child. What you garbage in is what you garbage out. What is garbaged out? You understand? What you garbage in is what is garbaged out. So you cannot say that you know I decree on my child. My child must be a good child. My child will not be a thief. My child will not be a stubborn child. And whereas you always insult and abuse your child to be that, and you are not showing good examples. You see, we have a situation here. We have generation that have been corrupted by the parents. We have generation of the parents that have been corrupted by their own parents, and it has been like that in generations. But there must be a time when these things can be arrested. At a point, there should be a conscious, and that is where we have institutions like the religious organizations and bodies. These days, we have so many religious platforms rather than places of right living. Or when we talk about religion, I actually look at the organized system in the world, in the globe, using the narrative of Christianity or any other religion to control the minds of people. The religion does not actually mean being religious. Does not mean that you are having a right way of life. Religion is a control mechanism by the world powers or the world order, the people who have tried to create a pattern to manage the minds of people and to control the minds of people. Religion itself is not the purpose of Christianity. You should understand this. There's a difference between Christianity according to the order of Christ and what God designed for humanity, and Christianity as a religion. Christianity as a religion was brought in by Britain to influence the people, whereas Christianity, as in the order of Christ and living godly, it has nothing to do with the religious practice and design of the West, which they programs to deal with the people. So I want to just end here right now to make you understand this, that we need to be very conscious of what we are doing and then live a life of purpose. Now the focus here is the family. I'm going to continue in this slide. I've spoken for about 30 minutes. I thought I was going to just remain for 20 minutes, but time is ahead, you know. So we are going to be looking critically at the family and how we can make things better for ourselves. We have so many, everything happening in our society today is showing to us how the families have been living, how things have been happening, how the next generation will look like. Look at the children of these days to tell you what the next generation will look like. These days, nobody wants to flog a child, nobody wants to discipline a child, everybody wants to just pet the child. And when you see, they see, in fact, it has become outdated for you to even flog a child for any misconduct or misbehavior. I'm not saying that every time you're flogging a child, but there's some stuff, sometimes you must discipline a child. And there's sometimes you must teach, and there's sometimes that you must put through. Even your disciplining a child with a rod should be in a way of teaching them, not in a way of punishing them, but in a way of teaching them and putting them aright. There's a difference between flogging a child to correct and flogging a child to punish. These are two different things, and I'm going to talk more on all of this stuff. So we need to change the family and get a better family for the future, so that we all can live aright and get our politics work well, get the right people in politics, get the right people in our religious systems, and get the right people in our entertainment and industry that influences our culture and values and all of that. So it's very, very important that we treat this matter as urgent and as important as it is, because if not, we're going to continue to have a system that is, we will be working, we'll be looking at our back, because everything has become dangerous. We are in a situation of danger everywhere, unless we begin to change the system and help the younger generation to begin to see our rights and to begin to have value for their own lives. We would end up messing ourselves up, destroying this our generation, and we become, the next generation becomes a threat to us, and we all get into trouble. Thank you so much for your messages, Hakan, Usa, and Daniel. Thank you so much for your messages. I appreciate you guys. We shall look more into this maybe tomorrow or so, when I'll come up again. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Enjoy the rest of your day, and God bless you, Rego. Thank you.